This is the Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
Well, welcome to this on-location edition of the Extra Point Podcast, joined by one of our favorite guests here from Cardinal Training Camp in Glendale, the great Howard Balzer, about to go to the Hall of Fame. He has his Hall of Fame shirt on. He's an Extra Point Hall of Famer. And before we talk about the Hall of Fame, let's talk about just week one of training camp. What are your kind of ruminations here as you've watched the Cardinals out here in Glendale?
I think the thing that jumps out, Mark, and we see it, we hear the players talk about it, we hear Jonathan Gannon talk about it, is the plan, that everything is planned precisely. Not to say that all teams have a plan, but from going to a slow day to a more high-energy day, to the way they've done the installs with offense and defense, it's game day-like. And so I think that's what we've seen. And we've seen a lot of energy here. And that's what Gannon is trying to emphasize. And we hear a lot of players talking about the positives. Now, we know they always talk about positives when it's a new coach, right? But the things they're saying specifically about the way things are being coached, I think shows that, like I said, Jonathan Gannon has a plan. He's implementing it. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done and where players have to improve and all those things. But I think he's setting a standard for what he expects his team to be, not only now, but down the road.
Well, and that's why we're here to talk about the negatives, right? You're not going to get any negatives down in the locker room, no. But, I mean, each year is a new, and you do want the hometown team to have some hope. I think coming into this season, there wasn't a whole lot of hope, and you're thinking just get to the NFL draft next year, try to get the first and the second pick, try to restock this roster, and let Kyler Murray rehab from an ACL injury. We've seen Kyler out there. He was doing some drills today. I would say there is initially some hope inside the locker room. Kyler seems bought in. Buddha seems bought in. Everybody we talk to seems like they really like the details that you're talking about here. Should we be drinking the Kool-Aid? I'm going to hand you a glass of Kool-Aid. Okay. Are you going to drink it?
Well, I'll drink it slowly. But I will say, like when Kyler was talking on Saturday, and like you said, he talked about it's not so much about the scheme. Everyone concentrates on that. It's how the scheme is coached with those details and things like that. But I have a sense, Mark, what we're going to see is we're going to see a smart team. We're going to see a team, obviously they have to avoid injuries because we're not sure about what the depth will look like, but I think this will be a team that's going to compete. Doesn't mean you're going to win games, but you know what? When you have the details down and players know what they're doing, most of the games in this league, even with teams only win 4 or 5 games, are one-score games. And if you can make those plays to win a game, not commit a penalty or a turnover that turns a game the other way, this team might end up being better than a lot of people think. And what does better mean? It means maybe not that number one pick. And I'll say this, all the fans, tank it, get this, get that. If you're sitting there 1-7 or some record, everyone's going to forget what they said. And they're going to say, this guy can't coach. He doesn't know what he's doing and all those things. But I think that there's going to be a very competitive nature to this team. I really believe that.
No, you can certainly feel that with Jonathan Gannon. I mean, just his eyes. You can just see it in his eyes, and I think guys like that a lot. But with Kyler's comments on Saturday, everything being very detail-oriented, I took that as a Cliff Kingsbury wasn't like that. Do you feel like that was the message behind the message?
It sure sounded like it because he named Lincoln Riley and said, well, he had a different system, but he coached the crap out of it. He didn't say crap. And so, but
it's a podcast. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said, and then he talked about the communication, the details, all those things, and it was mentioned today. Colt McCoy talked about how in the past was these hand signals and nonverbal communication. Well, that sometimes can lead to problems, and so I think Kyler was essentially saying that, and he was talking about the communication on Saturday, and he said that was missing. So, it was clearly saying that this is a whole lot different, and he's really happy about it and thinks that these coaches are doing a great job and are very smart, and it's going to make everybody play smarter than they have in the past.
I think about those hand signals, and I think right down there at the goal line, I think Kyler and A.J. Green and the Green Bay Packers and how a touchdown there might have changed history. But
who knows?
Yeah, you're at this point in history. The Cardinals, it sounds like, are going to huddle up more. Do you think there are advantages going into? There would have been advantages going into the huddle for that play for sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. And so, yes, Jonathan Gannon said, I love huddles. He says, huddles are sacred, right? And so, there's something to be said for that. It doesn't mean you go into a huddle, you win. There's obviously a lot of teams that do things a little bit differently. But, yes, I do think that, that is going to lead to some at least more consistency from this team. And we'll see not only huddles, but the quarterback under center, what we've seen a lot of.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah,
exactly.
What that look like. Yeah.
We've also seen quarterbacks, and Kyler hasn't done work, but we've seen Colt McCoy rolling out to the right, to the left, and throwing the ball. So I think we're going to see a lot of different things in this offense than we've seen for the last few seasons.
I would be a huge fan of when Kyler Murray is healthy to come around the corner, and you got to pick your poison. He's either going to run, he's either going to throw, and if you are somebody trying to defend him, good luck. When do you feel like we'll see Kyler? As we've been able to read, I've got nothing. I mean, I think I
Nobody
would think
does.
October, but then I would think again, give him a full year. I mean, it's a knee injury. His legs are his bread and butter. What do you think?
Well, he said it, and on one level he says, I will know when I know.
Right.
And even
that's breaking news.
Right.
By the way.
And even
I will know when he knows.
Yeah, right.
I guess we won't know until he tells us. But yeah,
right. And even,
when I know, okay.
And even Gannon said when he knows he's ready to play, he will tell us. And so certainly the medical people have to clear him and all those things. To me, the biggest question, and Drew Petzing talked about this a little bit, is that when will he practice,
right,
and how will they create that good practice time while during that they're probably getting someone else ready to play in a game at that position? Because really when you get into the regular season, there's not a lot of snaps during the week. And so Drew Petzing said we're going to have to be creative with that. So, we'll see. I don't think that anybody truly knows when it's going to be. It's all just guessing. We just have to let it play out.
So Colt McCoy most likely for opening day, or do we get a Clayton? Yeah, that's how we're going to say his name this year. Yeah.
I know a lot of fans are saying that. Just play him. What the heck? If you lose, so be it. Then you get a higher draft pick and all those things. But you also don't want to throw a young kid out there that isn't ready to play in this league.
But he definitely looks poised out there.
Oh, he definitely does. He definitely does. But even McCoy said how there's mistakes being made, and he's making them, and he's been around the league for a long time. Some would say, okay, so be it if mistakes are being made. But, fans will say, oh, this guy's no good because he's making mistakes. Right. So you don't want to put a guy out there too soon. I think there could be some times where he'll play. Obviously, I would think we'll see him a whole lot in the preseason. And, hey, games, there's a game at the end of next week, the first preseason game. So we'll see him a lot during that. But even preseason games aren't anywhere close to what a regular season game is. So you want the experience out there. You still want to go out there, even though it might be a little rough season, you still want to go out there with the best chance of winning, draft choice be damned. Whatever it ends up being, you want to establish a winning environment.
Right.
And I think that's what they're going to truly try to do.
Yeah, once losing gets into your water, it's hard to get it out. I've been saying that for a while. Hollywood Brown wasn't out there today. I'm a little worried there might be some carryover there to the foot injury last year. Is this DeAndre Hopkins not practicing again and it's fine? Any cause for concern for you?
Probably not. He didn't practice a whole lot at the beginning of training camp last year.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times with guys, you're being smart with them and you don't want to overdo some things. And we'll see. They're going to be in pads on Tuesday, I believe, for the first time. So we'll see if maybe he gets some more reps there. But I don't think there's any real concern at this point. The one thing you definitely want to do, and I think Gannon is very cognizant of that, is keeping players as healthy as possible, so you have a healthy roster entering the start of the season.
That's why they're doing these days where it's 50%, and we're all like, man, this is if I was a fan, I don't know that I'd come out and watch this, but I get it because no one's going to remember training camp once the season gets here. Offensive line-wise, they seem like they have some depth. Does that depth is good. Do you think they have enough guys to protect Colt McCoy or Clayton Tune or Kyler Murray when he gets back?
Yeah, who's going to be the center?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the left guard? It looked, at least so far, Paris Johnson Jr. has been at right tackle.
Yeah.
The thing you wonder, and Drew Petzing said, you want to play the best five guys. Yeah. So one of the questions they'll have aside from center is Kelvin Beachum at right tackle and Paris Johnson Jr. to start out at left guard, two of the better guys, or is it Johnson at right tackle and Elijah Wilkinson or Dennis Daly or whoever at left guard? At center, that's a big question. This team, Mark, when you look at the numbers of how they won games when Rodney Hudson was playing the last two seasons and how they lost a lot when he wasn't playing, that center position is crucial. And Yelda Froholt has been with the ones most of the time. I'm told that Jonathan Gaines, the rookie, is having an excellent camp. I don't know if he's ready to start at center as a rookie starting the season. I think we'll see him at some point during the year. But Froholt's interesting because he's one of those guys, everyone's on the same page here pretty much offensively and defensively, learning a new offense and learning a new defense. Yeah. Froholt came from the Browns. So he probably knows this offense more than a lot of guys on this team, and I know he's helping out some guys. So, but that will be a key, is protecting him, protecting whoever the quarterback is. You're good with Humphreys, obviously. You're good with Hernandez. You're good with, if it's Paris Johnson or Beachum at right tackle. So the other two spots will really be important, not only in protection, but in blocking for this running game that they seem very committed to doing a lot more of in terms of establishing the run.
Yeah, and I like the running back situation as well. I mean, just with James Conner, you just feel like he's probably going to get banged up at some point, but just the way he runs the ball and the way the team responds, that's something you start with. Is you get in a huddle and you run the football, and that, in my opinion, is how you win football games.
Absolutely. Of course, you have to be successful.
Right,
if you gain 2 yards too often or less on first down,
yeah,
then all of a sudden you're off the script, so to speak. So you have to be successful doing it, and obviously that's where the line comes in big, and it's also with the receivers and everybody blocking, not just the offensive linemen. It's the tight ends. It's like I said, it's the receivers blocking. The running game is about all 11 guys, not just the 5 on the offensive line.
All right. Do you think we're going to see Isaiah Simmons start the year at free safety with Buddha and Jalen on the field at the same time? The 3 safety experience we've seen out here.
That will be very intriguing to see how that plays out, because I think we'll see. I don't know if we'll see Simmons as much. We'll see him a lot at free safety probably, but he could also be up in the box a little more. Who knows? Maybe they put Buddha up in the box a little more to be closer in terms of the running game. So how that all is schemed and formationed, I think, is going to be one of the things we don't know yet, and we won't even know during the preseason because they're not going to show that much. No teams show that much in the preseason games. We probably won't know until September 10th in Washington.
Yeah, a little worried about the defensive line depth as well, but let's see him put on some pads and let's see exactly where we're at. There's going to be an injury here, and it's we got a long way to go until that opener in Washington. But you got a long way to go. You're coming out. You're headed to Canton, Ohio, home of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So tell us about what you have planned for us on social media the next week here.
Just looking forward to it again. I think this is my 35th time I've gone to Canton.
Wow.
For the Hall of Fame weekend. It is just one of the.
You sleep in the Hall of Fame?
I've thought of it at times, but I never have. It's just a tremendous weekend, and Colt McCoy talked about it on Monday because he was in Cleveland when Joe Thomas, who's being enshrined this weekend, was there, and he said. He says I talk to him every day. And he says his wife's going to Canton this weekend, so that was cool to hear. But I'm just so thrilled to be there and to meet. I've talked to the family of Don Coryell, who of course is a Cardinal legend. 50 years ago, it was 50 years ago this summer, first training camp with the St. Louis Cardinals as the head coach, an out-of-the-box hire by Bill Bidwell that proved to be an unbelievable hire, and it didn't end well. Then he went on to the Chargers, obviously. But you can make the argument, Mark, that Don Coryell would not be going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame if it wasn't for Bill Bidwell. He'd had a great career at San Diego State, but would he have ever become an NFL head coach? We'll never know, obviously, but maybe not. And it's funny, I posed that question to the great Chargers quarterback Dan Fouts once about, hey, without Bill Bidwell, Don Coryell's probably not in the Hall of Fame. And he said, hey, without Bill Bidwell, I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, if he hadn't fired him, he never would have come to the Chargers. And so, but I've gotten to know the family, communicating, looking forward to meeting them. His daughter, Mindy, is a treasure. She's going to be making a speech for him on Saturday at the enshrinement ceremony. It took way too long to put him in. He coached his last game, Mark, in the NFL in 1986. Oh, wow. And here it is, what is that, 37 years later, that he's finally being enshrined. Unfortunately, passed away in 2010. But the crazy thing is, when you look up that coaching history in the Cardinals books, Don Coryell won 42 games in 5 seasons as a head coach, 31 in a 3-season span when they won 10 twice and 11, and that was in a 14-game season. Those 42 wins are still – this is a team that's been in the NFL since 1920. 104 seasons, right? Yeah. Don Coryell's 42 wins are still the 3rd most in franchise history.
I feel like he needs to be up here somewhere, and it's kind of puzzling that he's not.
Well, It is. It's puzzling that Jackie Smith isn't, who was a Cardinal Hall of Famer for a lot longer than Coryell was there. And I'll say this, if I can put in a shameful plug.
Yes, there's no such thing as a shameful plug on this show. Yeah.
I have a story coming up on GoPHNX.com later this week about the Ring of Honor. And will Coryell go in now that he's a Hall of Famer? Jackie Smith hasn't. What's the story there? And a lot of stories about the things that went on back, hard to believe, half a century ago.
Wow.
So check it out later this week on the website.
And where can we find you on the air? Because you're going to be doing the interviews, right? You're going to be able to talk to a lot of Hall of Famers?
Yes, talking to a lot of Hall of Famers, doing 2 shows for Sirius XM NFL Radio. One will be on Thursday. Now I got to get this time right because it's 5 to 7:30 Eastern time, so that will be 2 to 4:30 St. Louis. Here I slipped. Arizona time, and then on Saturday morning before the enshrinement, we'll be starting. Oh my goodness. Bright and early at 6 a.m. Arizona time until 9, which is when the ceremony begins. But the great thing about Sirius, if you have Sirius, you can find all the shows when they're archived on the app. And looking forward, once again, to talking to a lot of Hall of Famers later this week.
All right. Well, we've really enjoyed this discussion. Stay safe. You are an Extra Point Hall of Famer, headed to the Hall of Fame. And we'll check back here from Cardinal Camp as the week goes along. The Cardinals will put on the pads here on Tuesday. The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.